Real quickly, I'm going to switch over to ROI expectations because you see things jump a little bit. Again, not surprising, Microsoft is extremely high on ROI, and that's largely because a lot of these people probably already have the E5 license, so they don't view it as extra spend. Okta jumps up again, tied there for ROI. Here is where I see a smaller name like JumpCloud do so well. We personally chose to use them for cost and efficacy both. Then Cisco, again, high on ROI. Some of these other ones I was a little surprised about was IBM. Didn't expect it to be such low on ROI. SailPoint, CyberArk, much lower than it was in the other positions. So real quickly, Graham, when it comes to people, what they expect their ROI to be on this tool, how do you gauge ROI, and how important is this when ultimately choosing something?
Yeah, I think ROI is really hard to calculate here because for certain aspects of identity, the ROI can be exceptionally long, especially in the IGA side. If you ask someone, hey, what's the average time to deploy a product like SailPoint, for instance, they probably say 3 years, right, before you're fully deployed. Whereas something like a 1Password, right, or a 1Login, I'm sorry, right, that might be a lot quicker and easier just because they're different tools and deployed different ways. So I think you see some of that on this curve a little bit. You know, the IGA tend to be on the right and the authentication services tend to be more on the left here. But I think that you're dead on with the Microsoft. If you're already on the 5 level, let's say, it's a really good value. But if you're not, then it's a huge uplift. And I think we've talked about it before, and I think in the industry it's well known, right? They want to get you on that E5. They give you a lot, but then you're displacing a lot of other tools. So if you're not there, I think it's a big uplift to get there. And that's a barrier of entry to Microsoft in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, and if you adopt it and then don't cut the other tools, you've just bloated your budget because now you've got, duplicative. Brad, real quickly, anything that you want to add on this side, on the ROI side?
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, I think of ROI as kind of business value over spend or cost. And I think some of the lower cost players like the 1Password and the JumpCloud are going to be high naturally because they're going to be lower on that cost side in comparison to the value they bring. And it's going to be the flip side on some of the products that are legacy with bigger costs or larger costs, more difficult deploys. Even if they're getting you the value that you need, it's coming at a higher cost, which makes the ROI lower, which is where I'd put things like IBM and Oracle and SailPoint.
I agree with that. And gentlemen, Rohit or Steve, if you have something to add, I can switch back. But in the interest of time, I'm going to show another data point here. And this was about how sticky a product was or how long they expect to use the product. And while you take a look at this for a moment and digest it, again, I could go back to the ROI if either of you had a commentary on that chart. But what we're seeing here is Microsoft, again, is the one where people expect to use this for 5 years or more. Whereas you look at a Ping, which Tomo Bravo is actually going to now combine with ForgeRock, which should be interesting, is the one that has the least expectation for using it that long. One of the things here I thought was extremely interesting, SailPoint, Okta, also very high. Oracle, I did not expect to be in this high group as well. Oracle and IBM, there's still an expectation. So I guess the people that are still using those more mature vendors plan to continue to do so. But as we look at this, Rohit and Steve, start with you, Rohit. Any thoughts on both the ROI and the expected length of use?
So Graham actually said it the best in the last slide when he talked about the ROI and IGA spaces taking more time to really prove their return on investment, like SailPoints and Savians. This is actually a very interesting point. Even with this slide, Eric, and if you can go to the next chart, please. What we see here is that Microsoft, as I said, has an unfair advantage. So if we just take out Microsoft here for a moment, the SailPoint, the ROI it takes is like 3 to 4 years in which we are, truly implementing SailPoint, and then we start to get, our money's worth or value out of it. So this do continue for 6 and 7 years, but this is not just with SailPoint. This is true for most other IGA solutions as well. So we shouldn't look at this in terms of, products across identity and access management, but it would be very interesting to see in terms of domains what their sticking points are, because if you see every tool across IGA, you would see a 5 to 7 years timelines around that as well.
Fantastic. I really appreciate that feedback. Thank you. And Steve, sir, I don't know if you want me to stick to this churn chart or go to ROI, but any thoughts on this vendor grouping?
No, on the ROI chart, I agree with everything that Graham and Brad was saying, but on this chart, not surprising at all on the length of time that they would keep the product, because the companies that scored well, I think that folks look at those companies as more enterprise level.
Mhm.
So, you're going to stick with them versus some of the smaller companies like Ping and stuff. I think of those as, maybe just like utility products. I mean, for example, we went with Ping and it was short term, and I knew it would be short term until we figured out what we really wanted to do. But when you get into companies like Microsoft and Oracle, you think of them as more long term, more, bundled services, more enterprise level.